everyone, welcome to this June 2025 monthly horoscope show. I literally just realized that the previous podcast episode was not recorded through my microphone. So the audio was slightly off. Not sure if that bothered you, but it bothered me. So I just want to address that and say I have fixed that problem. Anyways, June. We are almost halfway through the year, and June has some interesting things going on where I feel like this is where we might really start to get into the summer. We might start to feel like there's better vibes, better energy coming into play here. So we have Mercury square the nodes at the north bending. So this can cause an increased type of energy. And again, I'm going to go through each rising sign, what Mercury rules in your chart, what sort of themes that could be increasing this month. And we have both benefics for the first time in a long time, either in rulership or exaltation. So Venus will be in rulership, Jupiter will be entering its place of exaltation. So, those planets and what they rule in your chart, it's basically those landlords are in, generally speaking, a better place. And so it can have maybe a better feel or a better influence than, the past few years or so. So I'll get into that. We're in sort of the last little blips of the Jupiter-Saturn squares. So this time, when Jupiter squares Saturn, it will be in its place of exaltation and not detriment like it was in the past year or so. So a little bit different of a story. Squares cause action. Saturn wants us to be responsible and dedicated and disciplined, and Jupiter wants to expand. Jupiter's a little bit more well-resourced this time around. So, Jupiter has a little bit more strength in this conversation, in my opinion. So I'm going to get into that and how the previous squares might have felt a bit more challenging, where both of these planets, Jupiter and Saturn, were either in detriment or, Saturn and Pisces can struggle a little bit. So I'll get into that. But now they're both in new territory. They're both in new signs. So Saturn will be in fall and Jupiter will be in exaltation. So this really changes the action, the conversation going on. So again, I'll get into that. And we're really sort of closing up the month with this new moon in Cancer conjunct this Jupiter in its place of exaltation. And a lot has happened in the area of Cancer and in our charts. And with the Mars retrograde and, the stuff going on in Pisces, sort of trying that situation with Mars. So basically, we've had a lot to work out, a lot to contemplate regarding our core motivations and actions. And I think closing out the month with this new moon can sort of really clear out, sort of like spring cleaning, clear out that any residual energy and sort of really kind of move on from what's happened, if not already. So I think that can really provide us a really nice, welcomed, clean slate. So let's get into it. Let's get into this juicy June. Hello, Aries risings. So on June 5th, Mercury will square the nodes at 23 degrees. So Mercury will actually be in rulership in your Gemini third house of communication, exchanging information, your immediate environment, siblings, extended family. If you work in technology, transportation, media, this could also be increasing themes around that. Now, this could have a little bit to do with your work, your daily work, your daily routines, or even a health situation where you're learning more, you're exchanging information, or if it's a work situation, it could be really increasing themes of communication, short distance travel, technology, media, really sort of increasing at this north bending, this square of the nodes. Now, the nodes will be in your 12th house of subconscious, more of like the averse hidden part of your chart, and the 6th house of daily work, health, and routines, where that Mercury rules that 6th house of daily work, health, and routines as well. So this could really increase the desire for more vitality, more strength in your work routines and your health routines, being able to sort of communicate, exchange information, maybe even outreach to balance these areas or gain more knowledge or information to help yourselves with whatever it is. But all in all, I think that this could really increase maybe some short distance travel, more communication, exchanging information that could help you potentially balance sort of the mind and the body, work, routines, vitality, any of those things. Now, as we get to June 6th, the following day, Venus is going to enter your Taurus 2nd house of earned income and self worth. So, Venus will actually be in rulership. This is a good thing. Venus is sort of home and comfortable. And when Venus is in Taurus, which is an earth sign, it's not only in rulership, but this is a more grounded Venus. This is a more grounded, sort of tangible Venus, right? So with it being in rulership in your 2nd house, this might create help or support to a financial situation. Now, Venus also rules your 7th house of personal and professional partnerships. So look out for things within your marriage, personal partnerships, professional partnerships that could be opportunities to increase your income, increase your gifts, your talents, your self-worth, value. So I actually think that this could be sort of a helpful situation where, again, in the previous day on June 5th with Mercury square the nodes, maybe there's an increase in work or routines or a health situation that is sort of, the finances or the self-worth situation could be playing a part in that and in a more supportive way because Venus is quite comfortable here. Then on June 9th, Jupiter will finally enter your Cancer 4th house of home, family, property, and real estate. Again, Jupiter is in its place of exaltation, so very well resourced. And Jupiter is a planet of expansion. It really likes to expand whatever it touches, wherever it is. And the past year, it's been in detriment, sort of overexerting itself. And Jupiter is sort of, it's moving into this area of exaltation where maybe it can start to expand a living situation, a property or real estate situation. What's particularly interesting that I want to point out, if you are an Aries rising and you are thinking about maybe relocating out of the country or looking at moving far away, even if it's in the country. So anything like long distance travel, whether it's still in your country or internationally, this is something to pay attention to because Jupiter rules that 9th house of long distance travel or international travel as well. So this could definitely start to play out or increase themes or opportunities for expansion, to look into that. Either way, Jupiter could be blessing your home more spiritually, more sort of culturally. It could be expanding just relationships with family members or people you live with. Now, at this point, keep in mind that Venus has just entered its place of rulership and Jupiter has just entered its place of exaltation. And these two will be in some level of a sextile communication. So there could be an opportunity. Look for opportunities, financial opportunities for property, or opportunities with people you live with or family members that could provide more material possessions or more value to you. Then we get to June 15th, where that Jupiter in your Cancer 4th house of home and family, now exalted, is going to square Saturn in your Aries 1st house, where it is in fall. Now, I want to clarify that a planet in fall can sound really, really scary. It's not. It just means that the planet is in a territory where it's like it's in a foreign country, it doesn't speak the language. And so the way it goes about things, like it can take some time to figure out, or it might take the path that it normally wouldn't. So, for example, I try to explain, especially with my one-on-ones, when a planet's in fall, it's sort of like imagine yourself in your home country. You speak the language, you know the people, you know what stores to go to. And then you go to a country and you don't speak the language. You're gonna take a path that you probably wouldn't take if that was your home country. So that's not always a bad thing. But Jupiter wants to expand the home, the family, the property, the real estate themes in your life. And Saturn wants you to probably get more dedicated and disciplined and determined in strengthening your physical body, how you want to show up in the world, your ability to take independent action. And so in this particular situation or square, Jupiter is very well resourced. So, if you have two people in a conversation and one is in the know and has all the knowledge and has all the resources, they're usually in the conversation gonna hold the cards. So Jupiter's not only it's in its own country, it's got a butler, it's got a staff, it's got more than enough. And Saturn's in a foreign country, doesn't speak the language, doesn't know what's going on, trying to figure things out. So this could be an action aspect where some of you are really wanting to expand the home, family, property, real estate themes in your life, but you're also trying to take action and navigating, maybe strengthening your physical body, strengthening your ability to take independent action towards the things that you want or need, or strengthening sort of your career, your business, your public recognition, or what brings you fulfillment in the mix of this because of what Saturn rules. So it's just something to keep in mind. As we get into 2026 and 2027, these two are going to trine. It's going to be a very different story. But for now, we're sort of still working with these Jupiter-Saturn squares. But the good news is the planet of expansion and good fortune is no longer in detriment. It's in exaltation. Now, I'm going to wrap up the month on June 25th with this new moon in your Cancer 4th house of home, family, property, and real estate that will actually be conjunct Jupiter here. And this is where I think maybe it's been a bit bumpy for some of you, especially with that Mars retrograde, the end of 2024 into 2025, amongst the eclipses and everything else that went on. So this new moon could be a really great time to move into a new energy, especially with Jupiter here. So Jupiter's exalted. It's sort of, a very different feel, a very different vibe that you could be moving into that could really lessen the obstacles to long-term financial goals, resources, even expanding the foundation of your life in a way where it can sort of dissolve any obstacles to your mental health, feeling good mentally, getting enough rest and solitude. And so I think Jupiter is actually going to create, for some of you, a very expansive, nurturing energy that where you can sort of see how that can flow into a better financial future, more resources, and also really supporting your mental health, your need for solitude and rest. So there's a lot on the table here foundationally, but it can also over the next year really start to support those other areas. And so this new moon comes along on June 25th. And I think this is a really beautiful opportunity for all of us to say, okay, a lot's happened here. A lot's been talked about and deliberated and reviewed and revised and figured out in terms of core motivations and desires. Now, what new seeds can we plant? What new chapter can we really start where Jupiter's here to say, where can we choose joy? Where can we choose faith, abundance, and expansion? Hello, Taurus risings. On June 5th, Mercury will be in your Gemini second house of earned income and self-worth, square the nodes. Now, Mercury will be in rulership at squaring the nodes at the north bending, which can usually indicate an energy of increase. Now, what's good about this is Mercury is in rulership. It's home. It's resourced. It's comfortable here. And it is at a point where it could increase those themes in rulership. So, a couple things on the table, because Mercury also rules at fifth house of joy, creativity, creative projects, self-expression, children. So if you have children and that's applicable to you, this could involve situations with them that are playing a part in finances or budgeting or increasing finances to rebudget or support them. Either way, Mercury is very well resourced here, comfortable, and this could indicate that you are finding ways to increase your finances, increase material possessions, increase self-worth that could consequently create action or change to your creative pursuits and projects and self-expression and joy, like the things that bring you joy. Or you could be utilizing your artistry, your creative gifts, self-expression, any of those things, or moving more into a place of joy and seeing how that supports and can expand your finances. Either way, I think this will be a little bit of a more welcomed energy compared to Jupiter here. So, Jupiter is the planet of expansion. It has been in your second house of earned income, but it's been in detriment. So it's sort of swinging the pendulum over here and swinging the pendulum over there. And so for a lot of Taurus risings, I think that was a lot of mixed messaging out there. Just because Jupiter's in your second house doesn't mean it's going to expand your finances. There are other, like when you look into the essential dignity of that planet, how well resourced it is in that house, it doesn't necessarily mean or translate to that. So some of you who have felt like, man, it's been rough financially, or, trying to figure out these things. Jupiter's moving on its way out into its place of exaltation. And I'll get into that, but I think that will be a much better feeling for Taurus risings compared to the previous year. So this Mercury here, square the nodes, I think could really, this might be the point where you start to see the shift, or you start to see I can, exhale and sort of move into a new chapter, if that's been the case for you. Now, the following day on June 6th, Venus is going to enter your Taurus first house of the physical body, your ability to take independent action, your appearance, identity, how you show up in the world. Again, I think this is going to be a welcomed energy for Taurus risings because Venus is happy. It's well resourced. It's home. Venus is comfortable in your Taurus first house, and it is your ruling planet. So this could be a really good time to start to feel more like yourselves. More, some of you might be focusing on your physical body, focusing on sort of, Venus in Taurus is a tangible Venus. So those tangible results, maybe some of you, it's as simple as shopping, buying new clothes, feeling good about yourselves, getting back to that feeling. Now, Venus does rule your Libra 6th house of daily work, health, and routines as well. So some of you might start to feel more grounded or feeling more comfortable around your daily work and health routines. So again, once we get to June 9th and Jupiter enters your Cancer 3rd house, we'll have both benefics, either in rulership or exaltation. So June 9th, when Jupiter enters your Cancer 3rd house of communication, technology, media, your immediate environment, siblings, extended family, you could really start to see things expand, but in a more positive, beneficial way. So if you work in media, technology, social, any of those things, social events, exchanging information, anything in the communication or transportation fields, this could be very beneficial to you within your immediate environment, but it also will trine and it rules your Pisces 11th house of your social network and your long-term goals. So for the next year, roughly, you could really start to expand your communication, your immediate environment, short distance travel, relationships with siblings, extended family. That could have a direct natural flow and sort of dissolution of obstacles to expanding your larger social network and long-term goals. So I think, like I said, for Taurus risings, I think this is going to be a better feeling when we're just looking at Jupiter. Also keep in mind that the previous year, Jupiter was averse to your first. So it was in a house that the first house can't see. It's like a shadow house. And it was in detriment. So now Jupiter finally becomes visible to you by house in a sextile configuration. So opportunity, it's more visible. It's trining your 11th house of friends, groups, communities, long-term goals, as well as your 7th house of marriage and partnership, including professional partnership. So I really think you could really start to feel more ease in those departments, especially because Jupiter is very well resourced in this position now. Once we get to June 15th, we might have a little bump, a little blip in the road, because in 2025, we're still working through the Saturn-Jupiter squares. However, this time, Jupiter is not in its place of detriment in your 2nd house of money. It is in its place of exaltation, and Saturn is in its place of fall in your 12th house. So Saturn has entered your 12th house of the subconscious, sort of, your thought patterns, your sleep, your solitude. And it's in fall, which to me basically means like the planet is in a foreign country and it doesn't speak the language. So Saturn might be trying to do its Saturn things for you mentally, but it's going about it in a way that one would go about it in a foreign country and didn't speak the language. It would take a different path. It would, go roundabout. It would talk to people that it normally wouldn't talk to if it didn't speak the language. So some of you might see some action or change around your communication, anything to do with communication fields, things expanding in those fields, but also in your immediate environment, people, places, and things within that immediate environment, where you're taking action in a way that's changing maybe your thought patterns that aren't familiar to you. Or some of you might be taking a different approach around your thought patterns, how you take time to yourself, and how that can sort of generate the action you want to take to expand communication or communication fields or people, places, and things within your immediate environment. So this definitely looks like maybe something unfamiliar is going on mentally that could be allowing you to take action towards the abundance and expansion that could come from communication fields, exchanging information, relationships with siblings and extended family, and again, those things within your immediate environment. Once we get into 2026 and 2027, these guys are going to start to trine each other, and I think this is where it will be a totally different story. I want to finish the month on June 25th when we have this new moon in your Cancer third house of communication or communication fields, siblings, extended family, that immediate environment. And I wanted to include this because it's important to note how much this area has been impacted, especially if your IC is in your Cancer third house. So much could have gone on with home, family, property, real estate themes from the end of 2024 into the beginning of 2025 that really changed like how you take action and how you think. And now we have this new moon come along when Jupiter has entered this area. So it's sort of like Jupiter's exalted, really happy, generally speaking, well-resourced, tying in themes to, or through that, supporting, your social network and your goals and your personal and professional partnerships over the next year, where this new moon comes along and says, okay, it's sort of like this opportunity to plant new seeds or create a new chapter. But I think with what has happened here, this is an excellent time to let go of the past. Like, this is a great time to sort of say, this happened, I got what I needed out of it, and, release it, let it go, move on. And we're sort of moving on to greener pastures. And for you, it could be starting in the area of communication or communication fields, people, places, things within your immediate environment that, again, have really positive natural flow to expanding your social network and your long-term goals, and finally getting back to even having a positive influence on personal and professional partnerships that could have, not necessarily suffered, but could have been involved in having to figure out what happened the end of 2024, beginning of 2025 for some of you. So really, really great time to kind of move into more benefic energy and let go of the past and really start a new chapter where it feels good. Hello, Gemini risings. I think June is going to be the welcomed reprieve for many Gemini risings. I'm not going to lie. I want to acknowledge how Gemini risings, a lot of you have had some really big changes and major challenges over the past couple years with Saturn in your Pisces 10th house and that angular house. And I think that's caused a lot of restriction and hardship and dedication and responsibility, sort of to persevere through the things that bring you fulfillment and career. And, there's been a lot of challenges there for a lot of you. Again, I don't have your natal chart. This is not conclusive, but I think when we get to June, this is where I think a lot of Gemini risings, or at least I hope, are really going to start to feel more at ease and good about, the situation or their future. And I think a lot of Gemini risings have worked really, really, really hard. And I think this is where things can start to move in the direction where you start to see, even over the next couple years, the fruits of your labor. So I just wanted to acknowledge that if that is how you are feeling. So on June 5th, Mercury will be in rulership, and it will be in your Gemini first house of the self, the physical body, ability to take independent action. And Mercury is your ruling planet. It is home here. It is comfortable here. So hallelujah. And it will square the nodes at the north bending. So this is an increasing energy around mercurial themes that directly involve you. But Mercury also rules your fourth house of home, family, property, and real estate. So this could be sort of increasing themes around property or real estate, a living situation, a relocation, a renovation that could be increasing around this time. Or, Mercury is the planet of communication. So it could be increasing conversation and communication and information pertaining to those things. So the following day, on June 6th, Venus will enter your Taurus 12th house of the subconscious. Solitude, meditation, sleep, your thought patterns. Venus is in rulership here. So very comfortable here. Venus also rules your Libra 5th house of joy. So whatever it is that brings you joy, creativity, romance, your children, if applicable, whatever it is, I think this could start to feel like Venus home in your 12th house, I think could bring that mental relief. I think this could bring even like your mental thoughts could feel more joyful. Your thoughts could feel, or you're doing more of the more joyful things in your life that have a positive grounding influence on your mental health, your mental thought patterns, your life vision, your ability to rest as well. So I'm hoping that this provides some sort of like grounding effect to your mental, your mind, what's going on beneath the surface, that I think there's been a lot. A lot of you, like I said, have been tested quite a bit in this area for some time. So I'm hoping this brings that lovely Venusian, in an earth sign, in rulership, that grounded energy that can also tie in that 5th house of joy. Then on June 9th, Jupiter is going to enter your Cancer 2nd house. This, I think, is going to be good. So Jupiter rules your 10th house of career, public recognition, or what brings you fulfillment, as well as your personal and professional partnerships. It is entering its place of exaltation, very well resourced, in your 2nd house of money. Also self-worth. So Jupiter is going to start entering its place of exaltation, where it's very happy, it's very well resourced. As I say, like a planet in exaltation is like a planet that's at the Ritz-Carlton. It's taken care of. Now, this Jupiter here is going to, for the previous year, it was in detriment. It was overexerting itself, and it was squaring your 10th house of career, public recognition, or what brings you fulfillment. So there was Saturn Jupiter squares there, which were challenging. Now Jupiter is going to trine your 10th house of career, public recognition, and what brings you fulfillment. This is good. It's also going to trine your 6th house of daily work, health, and routines. So I think this could start to create more positive energy and expansion and faith in your finances or self-worth that could create a lot of flow and expansion to career, business, public recognition, or those things that bring you fulfillment, as well as positively influence your health, your routines, and daily work type of stuff. And it's going to, the previous year it was opposing your 7th house of marriage and partnership, including professional partnership. So, oppositions can be really hard to balance. I actually think oppositions are harder than squares. And now Jupiter ruling that area of partnership is entering a much happier, well-resourced place and getting off of that opposition. It might require some adjustments, but I will take that over the previous year for Gemini risings in these configurations. Then on June 15th, Jupiter in your Cancer 2nd house of earned income and self-worth is going to square Saturn that has just recently entered your Aries 11th house of social network and long-term goals. So in my opinion, generally speaking, again, I don't have your natal chart, but I think this square is going to be a lot easier for Gemini risings to tackle than the previous year, because Jupiter ruling the partnership, the marriage, the career, the business, the what brings you fulfillment in its place of exaltation is very well resourced. And squaring Saturn in your Aries 11th house of social network and long-term goals that is now in fall is a very different conversation than what these two have been having in the previous years. So basically, if we're looking at Jupiter Saturn as people having a conversation to generate some sort of decision or action, this is between your finances, your social network, and your long-term goals. That now Jupiter has knowledge. Jupiter has resources. It's sort of like if you have two people in a conversation and one is very well resourced and is in the know, and then the other is in a foreign country and doesn't speak the language, the one that's well resourced is probably going to direct the conversation, right? So the Jupiter in that 2nd house of earned income, wanting to really create more expansion and abundance to your finances, your self-worth, your material possessions, that directly is sort of having some sort of influence with the career, public recognition, is also wanting to take action on maybe reconstructing or restructuring or dedicating to a social network, expanding your social network, getting serious on your connections and or your long-term goals. So for some of you, it might be as simple as Jupiter in the 2nd. I want to expand my finances, expand my financial future through my career, through my partnerships and or marriage. And because of that, I need to get Saturn dedicated, serious, and committed to the right social network, the right groups and communities, and get really serious and dedicated to those long-term goals. So this could create some sort of some situation by mid-June where a lot of you are maybe getting a lot more serious about your finances, you know, surrounding yourselves with the right people that align to those long-term goals that are also tying into your long-term financial future and growth and potential you want to move into in the coming years. I want to wrap the month up on June 25th with this new moon in your Cancer second house of earned income and self-worth. This new moon is a new beginning and a new opportunity. In my opinion, this is a clean slate type of energy because end of 2024, beginning of 2025, that Mars retrograde did a number on this second house of earned income and self-worth. And a lot came up. I think a lot came up with work, you know, goals. There was a lot on the table here, but I think really getting clear on motivations and desires and plan of action that has now moved on. But this new moon comes along and says, okay, where can we really move on, plant the seeds for this new future, for these motivations and desires and plan of action that, because it's conjunct Jupiter and its place of exaltation, it kind of tells me the energy is sort of like, it's been hard for a lot of you. And where can we create a new chapter that feels more expansive and abundant and filled with faith regarding finances and self-worth and business and career and the things that are ultimately going to bring you the most fulfillment in life? Hello, Cancer risings. On June 5th, Mercury will be in its place of rulership. It will be home in your Gemini 12th house of the subconscious. Rest, sleep, solitude, really sort of your thought patterns. And so Mercury is well resourced here, and it will be squaring the nodes at a north bending, which is action, but in an increasing way. Things are increasing. Now, Mercury does rule your Virgo third house of communication fields, exchanging information, your community, social events, siblings, extended family, really any of those themes that feel specific to you around this time could be increasing mentally. You could be really thinking about or getting new ideas within your community, things you want to do, whether it's professional or personal. You could be getting sort of increasing thoughts based off of, or increasing thoughts or ideas based off of what is going on in your community, what communication, social events, those kinds of things. This could also just, on a very basic level, increase social events or things going on in your immediate environment that might require you to have a little time alone, get a little bit more sleep, etc. So either way, I think this, again, Mercury's in rulership. I think this will be some welcomed energy mentally for many of you. The following day on June 6th, Venus is going to enter your Taurus 11th house, and Venus is also entering its place of rulership. So Venus entering its place of rulership in this 11th house, I think, could create some really lovely Venusian grounded energy with your social network and your long-term goals. Venus is a planet of connection, especially when it's in rulership. So connection to tangibly connecting with other people, connecting to your social network, creating more partnership within that, or creating more connection and meaning and value to those long-term goals that could also have you be looking at your living environment, your home, people you live with, property and real estate. So maybe you're entertaining more people, or maybe you're looking at your living situation and how it's supporting your social network or your long-term goals, and being able to take tangible connection and action in order to make it the way you want to make it, or make it feel the way you want it to feel. Then on June 9th, Jupiter enters your Cancer first house of the physical body. appearance, ability to take independent action, how you want to show up in the world. Now, Jupiter has entered its place of exaltation, very well resourced. It's finally out of that place of detriment in that subconscious house, and it's emerging, it's becoming visible in your first house in its place of exaltation. So I think for a lot of Cancer risings, this is going to feel really good physically. And it's going to maybe expand your ability to show up in the world, to shine, to sort of have more of that Jupiterian expansiveness and faith influence on the world, where it can create a lot of positive flow to your growth and potential in life, your creativity, your joy. So I think this is going to feel really good, at least with the Jupiter situation compared to the previous year. So again, at this point, we have Mercury in rulership, Venus in rulership, Jupiter in exaltation. So these planets are gaining more strength, which is really, really good. And I think, welcomed around this time. Then June 15th, we're going to have another Jupiter-Saturn square. Now, we've gone through these before, but when we went through them before, Jupiter was in its place of detriment, overexerting itself in a very mental, subconscious house for you. Now, Jupiter is in its place of exaltation, square Saturn in its place of fall. Very different conversation that these two are having. So now it's sort of like if Jupiter and Saturn were people having a conversation. If one's exalted and well-resourced and in the know, while the other is in fall or in a foreign country and doesn't speak the language and is going to take sort of a different way of doing things, the one in the know is probably going to, is going to have more strength or more influence in the conversation, right? So I think the square this time is heavily involving you independently, individually, but also your career, your business, public recognition, what brings you fulfillment. And so, Saturn entering this 10th house, I think is going to be a time of dedication to what you really want to build, what legacy you want to leave behind. But with Saturn in fall, it might be like, an individual that's in a foreign country. They might go to different places. They might try different paths. They might try different things or, explore other areas than someone who's familiar or grew up there and comfortable there. So this is an action aspect. So there could be action between where you want to expand out in the world, creatively, growth and potential, but you might be taking action to try something new or take a different approach to your work, what brings you fulfillment, business, career. Now I'm going to end the month on June 25th, where there will be a new moon in your Cancer first house of the physical body, ability to take independent action, how you want to show up in the world. And I think it's important to remember how much has happened here. We had the Mars retrograde, end of 2024, beginning of 2025 here. A lot got kicked up in the major areas of your chart and thus life for some time. And that's moved on. And now we have Jupiter in its place of exaltation in this first house of self, where this new moon comes along and says, okay, where can we, create a new chapter around you and how you want to show up in the world, maybe through your work, your vitality, to, do more creative things or do more joyful things, and increase your growth and potential, but in a way where we can kind of clean the slate and maybe move on from the things that we've had to work through or some challenges. So it's sort of an invitation, in my opinion, for a lot of Cancer risings to create a new chapter and plant those new seeds that really can start to grow the plan of action and core motivations and desires around what is going to bring you joy and ultimately the most fulfillment, whether that's through personal or professional means. Hello, Leo risings. On June 5th, Mercury will be in rulership in your Gemini 11th house of friends, groups, communities, and long-term goals. So from a very sort of basic general overlay of the land, this could, in terms of social network and long-term goals, this might feel more like a well-resourced energy. So Mercury is in rulership, planet of communication. It also rules your second house of earned income and self-worth. So this could be tying in financial themes, increasing your social network, your self-worth, your value, surrounding yourselves with the right people that can align yourselves to even like long-term financial goals, if that is a prominent theme in your life. But on June 5th, Mercury is going to square the nodes, which are actually in financial houses in your chart. So North node in your 8th, South node in your 2nd. So both of these could be considered financial houses among some other things. But I'm seeing more stronger indicators of financial themes sort of increasing your ability to align yourselves to those long-term goals. But this could also increase friendship and connection and communication among people as well. So if you've been feeling sort of like a lack of connection or a lack of friendship or a lack of getting out there, this could sort of like get your mojo back and get the conversation and the connections and get that flowing and increasing. Now, the following day on June 6th, Venus will enter your Taurus 10th house of career, public relations, or if career is not a thing, what brings you fulfillment? Venus is in rulership in your Taurus 10th house. So Venus is comfortable here. She is home, fairly well resourced. And Venus in Taurus is, is an earth sign. So this is a grounded, tangible Venusian energy. And Venus also rules your Libra 3rd house of communication. So this could be tying in communication or communication fields in a more better feeling way around the things that bring you fulfillment, career, public recognition. So I think this could also be a very welcomed, grounded, like lovely, familiar energy around whatever you're pursuing in terms of what's bringing you fulfillment or the career, the business, the public recognition. Then on June 9th, Jupiter will enter your Cancer 12th house of the subconscious, mental thought patterns, dreams, solitude, and Jupiter will be in its place of exaltation, finally. So this is where, in the previous year, Jupiter was in its place of detriment, sort of overexerting itself, trying to find that middle ground, especially in Gemini, where now it's starting to expand the subconscious mind, expand your thought patterns, your life vision, dreams in a way where this Jupiter is very well resourced. It has the ability to do so. And it rules that 8th house of transformation or transformational work, as well as long-term financial goals and resources, as well as your Sagittarius 5th house of joy. So the next year could feel more benefic mentally, where it can sort of dissolve those obstacles towards the transformation you want in your lives, whether that's through personal means or financial means, as well as hopefully positively influencing your mental state, your thought patterns, your dreams, life vision, that can start to incorporate integrate more joy in your lives. So, Jupiter is going to get off that place where it was in detriment, but also it was opposing that fifth house of joy. Oppositions, I think, are more challenging than squares. And it was square that eighth house of transformational work and long-term financial goals. So the previous year has had definitely some opportunities for bumps in the road regarding that. Now it's moving into a friendlier configuration to those areas. And this Jupiter has in Cancer, where it's exalted, has faith, it has resources, it wants to expand, your mind. This could be a great time, in my opinion, to expand your mind in ways that you haven't before. Expand your mind in ways where there are possibilities that can lead you to more joy, more pleasure, more fulfillment, that in the previous years felt hard or even impossible. Now it's possible. So, as a fellow Leo rising, I'm welcoming this, and I think this could be the start of something really great in these departments. Then when we get to June 15th, this is where I think there could be a little blip, an interesting blip, because this is where we have another one of those Jupiter-Saturn squares. So it's nothing new. We've had these squares before where, it could be challenging, especially when one of those planets wants to go and expand and the other one wants to restrict or pull back and wait. Now they're in new territory. So Saturn has moved into Aries in its place of fall, and Jupiter has left its place of detriment and moved into a place of exaltation. So Jupiter has gained a lot of resources by essential dignity, and Saturn's in its place of fall. So it's basically like a planet in a foreign country that doesn't speak the language. This isn't always a bad thing, because if you're in a foreign country and you don't speak the language, you're probably going to talk to people you normally wouldn't talk to if you did speak the language. You might take some different paths or try new things. So good things can come of this. I want to get out of this like black and white thinking that I think a lot of people think about with planets in detriment or fall. But if we have two people like Jupiter and Saturn, and one has gained a lot of resources, a lot of knowledge, a lot of ability to get what it wants and, etc. And that's in the mental department for you, Leo rising. That's in the subconscious, the vision, the dreams. And then we have Saturn in that Aries 9th house of growth and potential in this foreign country, sort of maybe taking a different path or trying new things, or really sort of stepping out of anything that feels familiar to commit and to build towards that growth and potential you want in your lives. That could involve partnership and or work, depending on rulership. So the square is an opportunity for action, but this time to me, whatever comes up, it seems like a lot of Leo risings are going to mentally know how to navigate it. Where in the previous years, you may have felt a little bit different. Now I think you're going to maybe see your thoughts. You're going to know how to mentally, it's sort of like, what's going on, what's happening. You're well aware of what's happening. And that can help you take action towards the thing you want to build in terms of continuing education or travel, spirituality, teaching, publishing, any of those sort of growth and potential themes in your life that you really want to commit to and build. I think this square for Leo risings could really start in a better place from your inner knowing, your subconscious thought patterns, your dreams, your visions that you don't necessarily share with the world, but you have a grip on at this point. You know you know your mind. You've been tested quite a bit in the previous years, and sort of like getting grounded in that and using that as an anchor to take action towards that thing that you want to grow and create potential out of in your lives. I want to finish the month on June 25th, where I think this Jupiter-Saturn square is sort of, happening. It's continuing. But then we get to June 25th, where there's a new moon in that Cancer 12th house of the subconscious, your thought patterns, your dreams, your life vision. And this new moon is not just a new chapter or a new opportunity or planting new seeds. I think a lot has happened here, or sort of communicated with this house in challenging ways for some time, that has moved on. But this new moon is really the first new moon in this area after all of this stuff has happened and we've sort of kind of moved on from, particularly the end of 2024, beginning of 2025, where this new moon, I think, is an opportunity to let go of the past, or really sort of let go or honor how far you've come, not just externally, but mentally, internally. And with Jupiter being here, conjunct this new moon in its place of exaltation, I think this could be the time where you can choose happiness. You can choose joy. You can choose a more internal, pleasurable experience to view the lens of the world through. That you can sort of honor how far you've come, how, all the things that you've gone through. And you can say, I've gone through a lot. It was really hard. Learned a lot about myself mentally, emotionally, spiritually even, that now you can start a new chapter and you can plant new seeds with a new lens of, I'm going to choose, if I mentally choose joy and I mentally choose my heart's desire, then that's the path that I'm going to take. And, you can start a new chapter with that. I think it's a beautiful sort of ending in June, where we have planets in exaltation or planets moving into a place of rulership. And, it's been hard for a while for a lot of you. Again, it depends on your personal placements. But now it's sort of like, we can honor that and we can let go of that. I say we, because I'm a Leo rising. But we can sort of move into that mental space of everything starts from within. And if we choose joy and we choose our heart's desire, then everything else outside of that can happen. Hello, Virgo risings. On June 5th, Mercury will be in your Gemini 10th house of career, public recognition, or what brings you fulfillment if career and work is not a thing at this point in your life. Mercury's in rulership here. It's also your ruling planet as a Virgo rising. So this Mercury is home. It's fairly well resourced. It is at a very visible part of your chart. And it's at the north bending of the nodes. So where it's squaring is at a north bending, which could indicate sort of an increasing type of energy. So this could be increasing not only career, public recognition, or what brings you fulfillment themes. It could also be directly integrating your ability to take independent action. Some of you might even be sort of more in the spotlight, or, taking action towards those things around career or areas of fulfillment that could create the action and the change that maybe some of you have been waiting on. Then the following day, on June 6th, Venus is going to enter your Taurus 9th house of growth and potential. This could also have career and public recognition themes for some of you if your midheaven is in Taurus. Either way, Venus is in rulership here. She has finally moved into a place of rulership. She is home, she is comfortable, and she is in, an earth sign. So this is a grounded Venusian energy, which is really great in my opinion. And, when I talk about growth and potential, this could be spirituality, this could be travel, continuing education, higher knowledge, publishing, teaching, anything that you have your eyes set on or already doing in terms of growth and potential in your lives. Venus being here can add, some more, maybe even tangible results or more sort of love and value in a grounded way to these things. Now, Venus also rules your second house of earned income and self-worth. So some of you could be investing in your growth and potential or be looking into these growth and potential themes in your lives and how they can create more value to your financial future. Then on June 9th, Jupiter will enter your Cancer 11th house of friends, groups, communities, and long-term goals. I think this is going to be really, really great for Virgo risings. I think this is going to be great not only for your sociability, your social network, your goals, but also communication. You're, doing things, exchanging information in your immediate environment, as well as marriage and partnership, including professional partnership. So, Jupiter's entering its place of exaltation. It is, it's gained a lot more strength compared to where it's been in the previous year. And anywhere where you're having more faith and expansion and abundance to your friends, groups, communities, and long-term goals, it can create more positive flow or dissolution to obstacles within personal and professional partnerships, as well as communication and sort of having a positive influence on your immediate day-to-day environment. Then on June 15th, Jupiter in its place of exaltation in that 11th house of social network and long-term goals is going to square Saturn in your Aries 8th house of transformation and long-term financial management or goals, as well as resources. So Jupiter-Saturn squares can be challenging me because Jupiter wants to expand and Saturn sort of wants to restrict or be more disciplined. So in a square configuration, that can be quite tense. However, squares are action aspects. And so this square is different compared to the previous Jupiter-Saturn squares because now Jupiter has a lot more strength where it didn't before. And Saturn is in its place of fall. So where Jupiter is very well resourced, knows what it wants, is expanding the area of social network and long-term goals, Saturn is in fall. So it's sort of like in this foreign country, taking different ways and different paths and communicating in different ways regarding transformational work or, taking different ways or different paths around long-term financial goals or investments or resources, including a partner's resources. So this could be an interesting action aspect where you're seeing the expansion and the faith to the social network, the long-term goals, and you could be taking a different way of investing or financial management or transformational work in order to expand on those long-term goals and social network or connections in order to do so. Then I really want to wrap the month up on June 25th when we have this new moon in your Cancer 11th house of friends, groups, communities, or social network and long-term goals. I think it's important to note that when this new moon comes along, yes, it is a new moon. It can be planting new seeds and new opportunities around social network or friends or long-term goals. But I want to honor what's really happened here from the end of 2024, beginning of 2025 with that Mars retrograde. There's been a lot of activity or aspects to this house that could have been challenging. So this new moon comes along after those transits that caused potential challenges for many of you. Those transits have moved on. And this is really the first new moon that comes into this area that's been affected and says, where can we sort of move on? Where can we let go And based off of all of the changes, the revision, looking at what are my core motivations and desires, and what do I want to do, and what is my next plan of action moving into the next couple years. Now it's sort of like, okay, we've got that, and we've worked through whatever challenges have come up. Now this new moon is conjunct Jupiter in its place of exaltation here. So it's sort of like, how can you move into new opportunity and a new chapter with your friends, groups, communities, and your long-term goals, where you can actively choose faith and joy and expansion that can also positively influence your personal and professional partnerships at the same time. Hello, Libra risings. On June 5th, Mercury will be in rulership in your Gemini ninth house of growth and potential. So some growth and potential themes could involve higher knowledge, travel, spirituality, publishing, teaching, really what growth and potential means for you specifically. With Mercury in rulership, that means it has strength, it has resources. So this is a good thing. And it will be squaring the nodes at the north bending, which is sort of an increasing energy. So some of you might be increasing your growth and potential, your communication, your knowledge, your spirituality, travel. That could be having you balance sort of the mind body. Maybe it's mind body for health, maybe it's mind body for work. Then the following day on June 6th, Venus will enter your Taurus 8th house of transformation, also long-term sort of financial management, so investments, assets, taxes, those types of things, including resources and partners' resources, if applicable to you. Now, Venus is also entering its place of rulership. She is home, she is comfortable, and she is your ruling planet as a Libra rising. So some of you might be investing in your physical body, in your appearance, in how you want to show up in the world. Some of you might be, grounding yourselves physically to take on long-term financial goals or transformational work around this time as well. Either way, I would look for ways that transformational work or long-term investments can really support your individual needs, your identity, and or your physical body. Then on June 9th, Jupiter will enter your Cancer 10th house of career and public recognition, and or what brings you fulfillment if career is not a thing. This, I think, is going to be really great. Jupiter's in his place of exaltation, has gained a boatload of strength compared to where it's been in the previous year. And it's in the very visible area of your chart. So some of you might be getting back to really expanding on the things that bring you fulfillment in life, or finding ways to expand your career. Now, Jupiter rules that Pisces 6th house of daily work, health, and routine. So that could have a double dose of work, career themes, or it could have a double dose of what is bringing you fulfillment and how that can positively influence and transform your health and overall vitality. Also, keep in mind that when Jupiter is going through your Cancer 10th house, it will trine your second house of earned income and self-worth. So some of you might be able to expand your career or what brings you fulfillment, and you might find ways where that can positively influence or create flow to your finances and or your self-worth. Then my God, I can't talk. Then when we get to June 15th, Jupiter in your Cancer 10th house of career, public recognition, or what brings you fulfillment will square Saturn in your Aries 7th house of personal and professional partnership, including marriage. So we've had these Jupiter-Saturn squares previously, but it was when Jupiter was in detriment, really overexerting itself. And so this time it's between the area of partnership and career, or what brings you fulfillment, where Jupiter has now gained a lot of strength in this conversation. And in a way where, again, a square is an action aspect. So Jupiter wants to expand, have faith in this action, where Saturn is in fall in your Aries 7th house. So regarding personal, professional partnerships, Saturn's sort of in a foreign country and doesn't speak the language. So some of you might be taking a different approach within your partnerships, or taking a different approach to partnerships in general, whether it's personal or professional. That might feel new. That might feel like a new approach, a new way of doing things. That could also involve a home, family, property, real estate situation as well. So some of you might be either taking a different approach in your current partnerships, or taking a different approach to the partnerships, you want to commit to and attract, that has something to do with a living situation, your family, sort of incorporating more opportunities for joy in your life, or children. So some of you could be taking a different approach. Like if you're married with children, you could be taking a different approach or navigating new territory within your partnership that is also trying to tie in opportunities to incorporate more joy with your children if you're married with kids, as an example. Either way, it looks like Jupiter has gained a lot of strength and wants to expand the things that feel more fulfilling to you. That could involve career, business, public recognition, that might require some action taken towards personal and professional partnerships that feel new or feel like you're navigating new territory in order for you to do this thing that you want to do. Then I want to end the month on June 25th with a new moon in your Cancer 10th house of career, public recognition, or what brings you fulfillment. This new moon will be conjunct Jupiter. So I want to take a moment and just sort of look back on the previous year where this area has been challenged. There's been a Mars retrograde here. The other transits were also directly talking to this area as well. And I think this new moon is sort of like those transits have cleared out. And this is the first new moon in this area to say, okay, lots happened, cleared out, moved on from. Now we get a clean slate. And we get a clean slate with Jupiter in his place of exaltation. And so there's sort of this energy of what clean slate, like what do you want to leave behind? What do you want to move towards and sort of create in this new chapter of life that integrates more faith and more abundance and ability for expansion, not only to the things that bring you fulfillment and career, but also how it can positively influence your health, your vitality, and daily routines. Hello, Scorpio risings. On June 5th, Mercury will be in its place of rulership or home in your Gemini 8th house of transformation, long-term financial goals, management, like investments, assets, even resources, including a partner's resources, if that's applicable to you. And it will be squaring the nodes at the north bending, which can indicate an increase type of energy. And with Mercury also ruling that Virgo 11th house of social network and long-term goals, this could be increasing communication or the workabouts regarding a financial situation, financial goals, budgets, resources that are taking action towards any long-term goals that you have. This could also, for some of you, involve sort of communication or resources to, your transformational work or making big decisions that can also positively influence any necessary change to your social network or who you surround yourselves with. The following day on June 6th, Venus will enter your Taurus 7th house of marriage and partnership, including professional partnership. So Venus will be in rulership or home as well in this Taurus 7th house of partnership, which is helpful, right? She's well resourced, she's comfortable in her own home. And I think that this can sort of create a very nice Venusian grounded energy to, the people you connect with, your partnerships, even marriage, if that's applicable to you. Now, Venus also rules at 12th house of like your subconscious thought patterns, your dreams. So some of you might be with the 12th house connection. This might indicate sort of maybe some of you are having or connecting within your long-term partnerships where you're sort of connecting not in secret, but like you could be sharing things or creating more love and value or creating plans within those partnerships that aren't public. They're not sort of visible to everyone else yet. So some of you might be like working behind the scenes within personal and professional partnerships to sort of talk about or connect or work on creating more love and value, creating that vision that you want in your lives. And all in all, though, I think Venus entering this area can definitely be sort of helpful in the partnership arena, whether you're single or taken or it's professional. Then on June 9th, Jupiter is going to enter your Cancer 9th house of growth and potential. This can involve long distance travel, higher knowledge, spirituality, publishing, teaching, really anything you are looking at in terms of creating growth and potential in your lives. Now, for Scorpio risings, Jupiter the previous year has not only been in detriment, but it hasn't been visible to you. It was in an averse house. So now Jupiter becomes visible. It is exalted in this 9th house of growth and potential, where it's gained a lot of strength to do those Jupiter things, which is create expansion and luck and even abundance that could start to actually create a friendlier aspect or influence to the 5th house of joy, children, romance, as well as to yourself, your physical body, ability to take independent action. So I think this could definitely be the start of something really interesting, especially because the 9th house is where, we travel, we learn, we write, we publish, we teach. So some of you might be finding yourselves expanding into new worlds, whether that's like internal mental knowledge worlds or literally going to faraway places, doing long distance travel, foreign travel. That has a positive influence on, integrating more joy in your life or, that can also positively support your physical body and how you really want to show up in the world. Now, once we get to June 15th, we will have that Jupiter-Saturn square. We've had Jupiter-Saturn squares before, but when we've had them, Jupiter was in detriment. So now Jupiter is in its place of exaltation. It has a lot more strength in this square conversation now with Saturn compared to previous years. So Saturn is now in its place of fall. It's in a foreign country that doesn't speak the language. Now, that doesn't always mean a bad thing. It just means that Saturn might be taking different ways or, a different approach than it normally would that's outside of its typical way of operating in order to construct and build longevity around your vitality, your health, your work, and your routines. So Jupiter wants to expand your growth and potential in life, and Saturn might be taking different ways or a different approach to the work you do, health, vitality, routines. So in the square aspect, where this is an action aspect, And Jupiter has a lot more strength in this conversation. Jupiter might be saying, let's have more faith. Let's expand our growth and potential in our lives. But that might require taking a different approach to your daily routines. That feels new. It feels like new territory. So some of you might be changing your routines, changing your vitality, your health, your work. That feels different. It feels a little odd. It feels like you're in a foreign country, not speaking the language. In order to take action towards that growth and potential you want to take. And I want to wrap up the month on June 25th with this new moon in your Cancer 9th house of growth and potential, possibly creating new opportunities for travel, knowledge, spirituality, publishing, teaching, even career for some of you if you're midheavens around there. So this new moon comes along and it's conjunct this Jupiter that's exalted here. And so I want to take a step back at how much has happened here, really particularly the end of 2024, beginning of 2025, where we had some major transits really slowing down life, having us review, revise. Some of us might have felt a bit in the trenches, that was talking to or directly impacting this area of your chart and thus life. So those transits have moved on. Now, this is the first new moon to come into this area to say, what's the new chapter you want to create here? Where it's not just a new chapter, it's a clean slate. And where can we sort of say, we went through what we went through, we learned what we needed to learn. Where can we let that go and move forward with this new opportunity or new beginning around integrating and expanding the growth and potential in our lives that has a very positive, even fortuitous impact on your physical body, how you want to show up in the world, how you take independent action, and most importantly, really getting back to feeling joy again. Hello, Sagittarius risings. On June 5th, Mercury will be in its place of rulership or home in your Gemini 7th house of marriage and partnership, including professional partnership. Now, I want to point out that Mercury also rules at 10th house of career, public recognition, or what brings you fulfillment in life. So a lot of you could see increasing themes or communication, or even, especially if you're in business, sort of like commerce and communication with business partnerships that could increase those themes of sort of work, connections, communication that could increase your career, public recognition, or those things that bring you fulfillment. Now, if that's not a prominent theme in your life, this could increase communication around the themes of partnership, whether you're single or in a partnership. So some of you might be having more conversations about what you want, what you need, how to balance your needs versus the needs of others. Again, whether you're in a partnership or whether you're in a partnership or whether you're not. But I think this has a lot of potential with professional partnerships and maybe increasing those connections for more work and fulfillment opportunities. Then on June 6th, the following day, Venus is going to enter your Taurus 6th house of daily work, health, and routines. Now, Venus is also in rulership here. This is a very tangible Venusian energy, which I think is going to be, it's going to feel good. One, because your 6th house trines your 10th house of career, or what brings you fulfillment. And it also trines your 2nd house of earned income and self-worth. So Venus being in your Taurus 6th house can sort of create or provide more resources or create more love and value to your health and your work that could also positively influence your finances, your self-worth, and the things that bring you fulfillment, including career themes. Then on June 9th, Jupiter is going to enter your Cancer 8th house of transformation, long-term financial management or goals and resources, including a partner's resources. Now, what's interesting about this is that Jupiter is your ruling planet. It rules you, your physical body, ability to take independent action, and it also rules your 4th house of home, family, property, and real estate. So some of you might be looking into investing in you and your needs, your physical body, or some of you might be investing in a family situation, a family business, property, real estate, those kinds of things. So some of you might be sort of quite literally looking to invest in yourself or the foundational area of your life, whether it's through family or property, that can expand upon your financial goals. The other possibility with this is the 8th house being the house of transformation. So transformational work, making big decisions that you're not going to go back on, that can provide you the action with a home, family, property, real estate situation, or sort of the action need for you, your physical body, and how you want to show up in the world. So either way, Jupiter's in its place of exaltation. It's gained a lot of strength. It is out of its place of detriment in the area of partnership for you, which I think is going to help not only partnership, but it was in an angular house. So it's causing a lot of change to work and home and family and balancing yourself. So I think this is getting off of that opposition to you and moving into a place where maybe you can start to expand in ways that feel more well-resourced, particularly maybe coming from family, people you live with, or literally feeling like you have more ability or resources to take independent action towards the things that you want. Where in the previous year, it might have felt a bit of a struggle or a tug of war at times. And then on June 25th, I'm going to wrap the month up with this new moon in your Cancer 8th house of transformation, long-term financial management, goals, resources, including a partner's resources, where, yes, this is a new moon. So it could be a new chapter, a new opportunity, planting new seeds financially or through transformational work or making really important big decisions. But I also want to take a step back and remind you how much has happened here. So much has happened with, this concept of mutual empowerment and how can we work with other people, whether it's through partnership, personal, professional, to double the capacity. Transformational work, maybe transformational work or therapy has been a thing for some of you, or just long-term financial goals, like creating a financial future for yourselves and increasing your finances. Like there's just a lot that's gone on in this area that had grounds for challenge and being tested and really testing the core motivations and desires. And those transits have moved on, right? End of 2024, beginning of 2025. They've moved on. And this is really the first new moon to enter this area since the Mars retrograde, to say, okay, the new chapter, the new beginning, but where can we let go of what happened? Like you got what you needed from it. And where can you move into this new chapter and plant new seeds, feeling grounded in the core motivations and desires and plan of action regarding your financial future, your resources, a partner's resources, or the transformational work you've done or the major decisions you've had to make. And this time it's conjunct Jupiter in its place of exaltation. So this tells me it's sort of like, what new chapter or seeds can you plant that this time they're sort of watered with more faith and abundance and expansion, maybe transformationally, maybe financially or resources, that could have a direct positive influence to the foundational area of your life, relationships with family, property or real estate, as well as your ability to take independent action and expand in ways that feel more benefic to you. Hello, Capricorn risings. Now, on June 5th, Mercury will be in its place of rulership or home in your Gemini 6th house of daily work, health, and routine. So Mercury has strength, it's got resources in the area of work, health, and routine, but it will also be squaring the nodes at the north bending. So creating action maybe to your work, health, and routines, but in a way where it's increasing. Now, Mercury also rules your Virgo 9th house of growth and potential. So maybe higher knowledge, travel, spirituality, publishing, teaching, any of those themes in your life that you're either interested in or doing to increase growth and potential in your life. Could be playing into maybe increasing or integrating that within your work, health, routines. So it looks like some of you are increasing your work and or health by increasing your growth and potential, or increasing your growth and potential, which consequently increases and creates change to your work, health, and routines. The following day on June 6th, Venus is going to enter your Taurus 5th house of joy. Now, this could include your children, if that's applicable to you, creativity, self-expression, really enjoying whatever it is that brings you joy and sort of your heart's desire in your life. Now, what I like about this for Capricorn risings is that Venus will be in its place of rulership in Taurus. So she is home, well-resourced, comfortable. This is good, grounded, Venusian, loving, valuable energy that could really help the area of joy and the heart's desire. Now, what I like about this is that it will be in a trine configuration to your first house of the self, the physical body, your ability to take independent action. So this is a good time to kind of get grounded or more aware of the things that bring you joy or your heart's desire, and how that can have a really easy, natural, positive influence on your physical body, how you want to show up in the world, and how you want to take independent action. Now, on June 9th, Jupiter will enter your Cancer 7th house of marriage and partnership, including professional partnership. So for some of you, this could be sort of creating benefic, exalted, expansive energy to your current partnerships or marriage. Or for some of you, for the next year, this could really expand the area of potential partnerships in your life. Now, what I like about this is that Jupiter is in its place of exaltation. It is in an area of personal and professional partnerships that can not only expand the area of partnership or the ones you already have, but through that can create change to career, things that bring you fulfillment, a living situation, and balance to you individually. The other thing I like about this is that this is going to create a trine configuration to your 11th house of friends, groups, communities, and long-term goals. So through expanding personal and professional partnerships, it could have a really great natural flow and ease to expanding your social network and your long-term goals even. Then when we get to June 15th, we're going to have that Jupiter-Saturn square. Now, the previous Jupiter-Saturn squares were very different because Jupiter was in its place of detriment. It was overexerting itself. And Saturn was in Pisces, in a water sign. Now we have Jupiter in its place of exaltation, gained a lot of strength to do those Jupiter things of expansion and fortune. And Saturn is now in its place of fall. Now, when a planet's in fall, it's sort of like being in a foreign country where you don't speak the language. And so that's not always a bad thing, because if you're visiting a foreign country and you don't speak the language, you're going to try new things. You're going to meet new people to, get where you need to go, or you're going to take a different path. So some of you, in terms of home, family, relationships with people you live with, or property, real estate themes, including like renovation, redecoration, whatever specifically is going on with those themes in your life, you could be taking a very different approach to committing to it or restructuring it. That feels unfamiliar to you. Now, Saturn is your ruling planet. So this tells me you could be doing like the way you independently take action, or the way you pursue relationships with family or a living situation, property, real estate. Something might feel new, or a new territory that you're exploring to create more longevity and sustainability to the foundation of your life. Where Jupiter wants to expand and create more abundance in the area of partnership, whether it's personal or professional. So it's sort of like Jupiter wants to expand and is got a lot of strength to do so this time around. And in order to do that, action might need to be taken regarding a home, family, property, or real estate situation that might be a different way of doing it. It might be, new territory that you're navigating around those themes in order to take action towards expanding your personal and professional partnerships in the direction you want it to go. And lastly, on June 25th, I want to wrap up the month with this new moon in your Cancer 7th house of personal and professional partnerships, including marriage, where this new moon is planting new seeds. It's a new opportunity, a new chapter in the area of partnership. But it's conjunct Jupiter in its place of exaltation. So I want to take a moment and sort of look back, specifically the end of 2024 into the beginning of 2025, where there was a lot of opportunity for bumps in the road in this area, where some of you may have really been reviewing and revising your core motivations around a living situation or relationships with family or, real estate, property, those types of themes, as well as sort of your long-term goals and who you want to surround yourselves with, and how partnership played into that, or the desire for partnership or certain professional partnerships were playing into that potentially for some of you. Either way, there was a lot going on that was happening in this area or talking to this area, the end of 2024, beginning of 2025, that now has completely cleared out. But this is really the first new moon that takes place here since all of that has cleared out. So this is a really good time, I think, to maybe reminisce or look back and see how much has changed and what you want to let go of and move on from, and plant new seeds and step into a new chapter, where I think a lot of you could be stepping into a new chapter around personal and professional partnerships and being able to expand on that to create more fortune in other areas of your chart and thus life, but in a way where you can have more faith and it actually influence your immediate environment, communication with the world, and also your mental thought patterns, your life vision, and your dreams. Hello, Aquarius risings. On June 5th, Mercury will be in its place of rulership or home in your Gemini 5th house of joy or heart's desire. So this could be creativity, self-expression, romance, children, if applicable to you. Really, any of those things that you have an itch for that is your heart's desire or really, really brings you joy in life. And so Mercury in rulership here is helping this area because Mercury's home, comfortable, has a good amount of strength, just like anyone would in their own home with their own stuff and their own ways of doing things and knowing what to do in their own space. So Mercury will be squaring the nodes in financial houses. So the nodes will be in your second and your eighth, which are financial houses among some other things. But I think that some of you might be increasing communication or even commerce if that is a thing in business in your life, where you could be increasing those themes through a more joyful way, a way where it's more aligned or increasing sort of your heart's desire. That could be tying into financial themes or sort of increasing financial themes as well, because Mercury rules your Virgo 8th house of transformational work and sort of long-term financial management or goals, as well as resources. So some of you could be increasing, your creativity, your joy, your heart's desire, where you're also seeing how that can be a long-term investment for you. That can be a resource for you, even financially in the long run. Then we get to the following day on June 6th. Venus finally enters your Taurus 4th house of home, family, property, and real estate. I think this is really good. I think this is a nice, this is going to be a nice welcomed energy, because Venus will also be in rulership. And Venus in Taurus is like a really lovely, valuable, grounded, earthy Venusian energy. And Venus it also rules your Libra 9th house of growth and potential. So some of you might be increasing more value and love and connection to your home or within your home through different modalities, but it could be also providing you growth and potential in your lives. Or the growth and potential that you're seeking, it could create love and value and Venusian vibes in your home, relationships with family or people you live with, as well as any property or real estate themes. So this, for some of you, it might be as simple as redecorating, renovating, creating more, because Venus rules like art, agriculture. So I think some of you might be stepping into more of like that tangible Venusian, earthy energy within your own home, and maybe integrating more of that through the growth and potential you've gone through in the previous years. So all in all, I think this is going to be a lovely, grounded Venusian energy that can also incorporate or even support the growth and potential in your lives. Then on June 9th, Jupiter will enter your Cancer 6th house of daily work, health, and routines. I think this is going to be good, because in the previous year, Jupiter was in detriment, sort of overexerting itself. Really, it was a bit of a struggle to find that middle ground for that expansion. Now Jupiter has entered its place of exaltation, involving your health, wellness, vitality, as well as your daily work and routines. So some of you might start to expand your health, expand your work, and even your routines to incorporate more joy, more faith in those themes. The other really wonderful thing I like about this is that Jupiter rules your second house of earned income and self-worth. So as Jupiter is expanding, even creating more abundance through the work, health, and routines, it is forming that trine aspect to a money house and a self-worth house. So it could have a really valuable, positive, easy influence on finances, self-worth, value. So, compared to the previous year. So I think this is going to be really great. And the last thing I want to mention about Jupiter and Cancer is that the expansion and abundance to the work, the health, and the routines could also create a lot of easy flow, natural flow to the 10th house of career, business, public recognition, and fulfillment. So I think this, again, is sort of, Jupiter's going to start to form this grand trine between your work and health, your money, your career, and what brings you fulfillment. So in its place of exaltation, where it has a lot more strength this time. And so I think a lot of you could be stepping into a year of feeling more of that faith and vision and expansion in those areas. Then on June 15th, we have the Jupiter-Saturn square. So this is nothing new. We've had Jupiter-Saturn squares. However, the two of these planets are in entirely new territory this time. So like I said, in 2025, we're sort of wrapping up the Jupiter-Saturn squares. And then once we get into 2026 and 2027, these two will start to trine each other in a more, friendlier aspect, less tense aspect. So we have the planet that wants to expand and the planet that wants to restrict in this action aspect, which can be quite stressful. The good news with this time is Jupiter is now in its place of exaltation. So it has a lot of strength. It has a lot of essential dignity here. And Saturn is in its place of fall. So sort of like in a foreign country that doesn't speak the language. So if you have two people and one of them is very well resourced, is sort of in the know, knows what it wants to do, knows where it wants to go, and has the resources in order to do so. And for you, it's in the area of work, health, and routines. It's going to have a bit more strength. It's going to have the upper hand in the conversation, in my opinion. So the Saturn in your third house of communication, technology, media, immediate environment is in fall. And so when it comes to maybe communication, exchanging information, media, anything with like people, places, and things, including siblings and extended family in that immediate environment, you could be taking an entirely different approach to build on those things. So if you're looking to sort of commit and build to relationships with siblings or extended family, commit or build to communication or communication fields, including media, social events, exchanging information, you could be taking a different approach to it this time compared to last time, if you're old enough. So this one's interesting because Jupiter's got a lot of faith, a lot of strength. It wants to expand upon the other work that you want to do or include. It wants to expand on your routines to incorporate more of the things that bring you joy and faith in your life. That could have a positive influence on your finances or career. But the action is sort of like where you want to expand on your routines, your work, and even your health. For some of you, the action that you take, you might be taking a different roundabout way or sort of new territory in order to do so. So that's sort of how I'm looking at this, where some of you might be taking a totally different new approach or a new way of committing to the media, the technology, the communication, whether it's personal or professional, a new approach to your immediate environment in order to expand upon those routines or expand upon your work, a new approach that's unfamiliar or new territory regarding socializing or exchanging information so that you can take action to fully step into that expansion. Like I said, once we get into late 2026 and 2027, this will be a very different story. But I think these are the last sort of squares and opportunities to change and take action in this area to set ourselves up for success for the trines where things can naturally flow and constructively build. And lastly, I want to wrap up the month on June 25th with this new moon in your Cancer 6th house of daily work, health, and routines. Now, this new moon will be conjunct Jupiter in his place of exaltation, which is really great. So this could be a new chapter, a new opportunity or planting new seeds to enter more of that abundance and faith around expanding your routines to do more of the things that you want to do that bring you more joy and abundance in your life. That could be work related or health related. But I do want to take a step back and remind you how much has happened here, particularly the end of 2024, beginning of 2025, but even the past couple years for a lot of Aquarius risings, that it's been, there's been challenges to your work, to your health, to your routines even, where, it's been challenging, and that sort of wrapped up and moved on. And really that Mars retrograde that impacted the sixth house of daily work, health, and routines, that had a lot of you sort of reviewing and revising. What is my purpose? What am I here to do? What is the direction I want to take? How, for some of you, how your health impacts that, how your routines have drastically changed, or how can you move into expanding them to do more of the things that fulfill you. So now those transits have sort of moved on, and we're in this sort of, tail end or residual period. And then this new moon is really the first new moon to come into this area since all of that is cleared out. And say, what seeds do you want to plant? What new chapters do you want to create here to expand your routines and your work and even your health for some, that you can sort of, some of you might be leaving the past behind. You might be sort of looking back and saying, that had its challenges and it's time to move into a new phase or a new season of life. And, Jupiter's there to say, how can we move into this new chapter, this new phase, or planting new seeds around expanding work, health, or routines where it feels good and it has more faith and positive, opportunities even, that, like I said, could have a direct positive flow to your finances, your self-worth, and most importantly, what is going to bring you fulfillment in this life. Hello, Pisces risings. On June 5th, Mercury will be in your Gemini 4th house of home, family, property, and real estate. Now, Mercury will be in rulership. It is home here, which basically means it has strength, it has resources. And so it will be squaring the nodes at a north bending, indicating increased mercurial themes like communication with family or people you live with. It could also be increasing property, real estate situations that could be playing a part in personal or professional partnerships as well. So look to marriage if that's applicable to you, or, your personal and professional partnerships, and how that is increasing, involving something being communicated or playing out with family members, relationships with family, people you live with, even property or real estate themes for some of you. Then the following day, on June 6th, Venus enters your Taurus 3rd house of communication, communication fields, if this is something you work in, technology, short distance travel, really those people, places, and things within your immediate environment, including siblings and extended family. So Venus will enter its place of rulership here as well. And so Venus in Taurus is a very lovely, tangible Venusian energy. And so I think this can help create more love and value through connections with others or communication. So maybe it's a family situation, like I mentioned before, that's coming up, that could have you connecting or communicating, your side or what's going on to create a more valuable situation. to you, to the other party. Either way, I think Venus in your Taurus third house has a good amount of strength and resources to communicate what you need in order to integrate more love and value in your life. Then on June 9th, Jupiter enters your Cancer fifth house. Jupiter will be entering its place of exaltation. I like how Jupiter, for a lot of you, is getting out of that Gemini fourth house, because although Jupiter is the planet of expansion and luck and fortune and all that good stuff, the past year has been in detriment. So it's been overexerting itself in order to do so. It's also getting out of an angular house, which can create a lot of change and the need for balance to other major areas of your life. Now, Jupiter, your ruling planet as well, which rules your body, your ability to take independent action, can now be in a place where it feels strong. It feels like it has the resources to do what it wants to do. And with it being in the fifth house, this could involve creativity, creative projects, self-expression, your heart's desire, anything that brings you joy. This can also involve children. Children land in the fifth house. So this could be expanding your family. This could be sort of integrating or infusing more joy with your relationships with your children. Depending on your natal placements, this could also increase the odds of conception sometimes. Conception is a much more complicated thing, so please do not freak out about that. But this, whatever it is, Jupiter is coming in with strength and resources to expand your creative projects, creative self-expression, romance, joy, children, if that is something you desire or is applicable to you. And also really, like, what is your heart's desire? And the good news with this is that Jupiter's getting out of that square formation to you and moving into a trine configuration to you. So whatever joy, heart's desire, expansion you're doing in that fifth house, it's going to create positive flow and this nice, natural, positive, even expansive energy to you and your ability to take independent action. It can also positively influence your growth and potential over the next year as well. Now, June 15th, we get to the Jupiter-Saturn square. This is nothing new. We've had Jupiter-Saturn squares, and in my opinion, in much worse conditions. So the last Jupiter-Saturn squares, we had Jupiter in its place of detriment, overexerting itself, and Saturn in Pisces, which is not too happy. Now we have Jupiter very strong. It has resources to do Jupiterian things, to expand, to create abundance, to have faith. And Saturn has entered its area of fall, where it's sort of like in a foreign country and it doesn't speak the language. So this time it's different because Jupiter's coming into the conversation knowing what it wants, where it wants to expand, its heart's desire, having a lot of faith, and looking around and saying, I have the resources to do so. Where Saturn is like, I don't speak the language. This is new territory for me. What's going on here? So the square between these two is happening between your second house of earned income and self-worth and your fifth house of joy, creativity, creative pursuits, your heart's desire, and children, if that's applicable to you. So the square is an action aspect. And Jupiter, being well-resourced, is coming in and saying, I want to expand my creative projects or time with my children or my family or things that I enjoy, integrating more joy, self-expression, heart's desire. That could involve career and public recognition for some of you, FYI. But that action might require you to take a different approach to finances. It might have you taking a new way of looking at money, a new way of looking at your self-worth that is having you take action this time around to more faith and abundance in those fifth house themes of joy and heart's desire or creativity. So I think this one's interesting because, Neptune is also involved in this Saturn situation. But again, this is not conclusive. I'm not including every single detail in transit for time purposes. But it seems like in order for you, a lot of you might be taking a different approach or commitment to creating sustainability and longevity to your finances so that you can really step into the expansion and the joy and the creativity and the heart's desire. That ultimately will have a really positive effect on you and how you want to show up in the world, as well as your growth and potential. And I really, really want to wrap up the month on June 25th with a new moon in your Cancer fifth house of joy, creativity, heart's desire, children, if that's applicable to you. Now, this new moon will be conjunct Jupiter here in its place of exaltation, which is really good. This is a really lovely, juicy new moon where a lot of you could be stepping into a new chapter, a new opportunity, or planting seeds to really step into those things that feel joyful to you. And I want to take a step back and remind you how much this area has been impacted, even in very challenging ways, over the past couple years. Even particularly the end of 2024, beginning of 2025, where there's been a lot of things going on that either went through this area or directly was in conversation to this area, where there was a lot of review, a lot of revise, even conflict, core motivations, desires, really figuring out quite a bit, even financially, especially in 2024 and 2025, where now those transits have moved on. They've cleared, they've moved on. But this is the first new moon in this area since that clearing. And it's conjunct Jupiter, who's very strong and well-resourced here. So it's sort of like, what do you want to release or leave behind where you can now move into a new chapter or planting new seeds, where you're so clear on your core desires and motivations and the plan of action. But this time you can move into a new space where it feels good and there's more faith in that expansion and abundance through the heart's desire, creativity, and joy.